So welcome everybody to this iMoot Mini Moot 16 session. We have Tish talking about how she has used Moodle to set up her business. So thank you very much, Tish, for presenting a second time at the iMoot Mini Moot. And I hope everyone enjoys Tish's session as much as her first. Thank you, Tish.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks, everyone. If you can't hear me or if it's a bit dull with the sound, please let me know. And if you have any questions throughout, just pop them in the chat. I will stop from time to time to read any questions that you have or any comments that you want to make. Please do so. I think I will turn my webcam off because I know it can affect the sound sometimes. So I will say, see you later, webcam. But I am still here. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to tell you a story really about setting up my business and how I use Moodle in my business. I run a business using Moodle. It sounds like I'm using it to manage the finances or something, but it's not for that. It's my own Moodle site, and I make a little bit of money from it, which is a good thing. Just a little timer before we start. I might swear occasionally, so just be aware that that might happen. And I know there's at least one swear word in print in this presentation, so but I think you'll understand when you see it. So I just wanted to let you know ahead of time there may be profanity. I'm in absolutely no way an expert on Moodle, but I muddle my way through it, Moodle and muddle through, and have taught myself how to use it mostly. But let me tell you a little bit about how this began, where it started, and how it got to where I am today. So in 2008, a friend of mine, Jonathan, said to me, "Have you heard of this thing called Moodle?" I said, "No." And he said, "It's really cool. I think you'll really like it." And I said, "Okay, well, let's give it a go." So he set me up on his server, and I just had a blank canvas to work with, and I think I was on 1.9, and I stayed on 1.9 for quite a long time because I was a little bit worried about changing to 2.0 and further, but it was a good beginning. But before that, I'll backtrack a bit, and I just saw that your chat there, Trish. How's that now? Really soft. I don't want to speak too loud. I will backtrack a bit. Great. To tell you a bit about me, I'm an English language teacher, and I really got into English language teaching because I wanted to travel. And I taught in England and London. I taught in Ireland. I've taught in Australia, in New Zealand, and I also taught in Tunisia in 2004, 2005. So it's a great thing to do if you want to travel, which is a lot of fun, but the money's not that good. But anyway, you meet interesting people, and it's a great job. So this was me teaching and loving life, and I started up as a teacher, and I could see my clear career trajectory ahead of me. Into 2007, I was managing a school in Ireland, a small language school, and came to Australia and was looking at becoming a director of a school, and possibly had always thought, well, I'd like to have my own school. So let's see what happens. And I moved to Australia in early 2008 after having been abroad to Queensland, Brisbane. And I started up my own first site, just dabbling with Moodle and using it in the school. And we had a school computer room, and we'd take the students to the computer room, and they would be able to use the site there. And I really did it in the beginning because sometimes you get called up, by the director of studies saying, well, you're not going to be teaching this class that you thought you were teaching because another teacher is away. You're going to be teaching another class. And then you're frantically at the photocopier trying to get something ready for the new class. So this was my contingency plan. I knew that I'd be able to put courses up there and make it easily accessible. I knew that what I put up there would be quality materials. It was also photocopy free, which was fantastic, and I could rely on it. So in those moments where you maybe hadn't done the planning that you had intended to, or you were suddenly thrown into a different class, you could take the students to the computer room and set them up to do an activity. So that worked quite well for me, but I did want to do more, and I was getting more and more involved with it as I went along. And I started my new site, but that wasn't anything to do with teaching in a school or anything like that. It was another reason for that, and that was that pretty bad shit happened at the beginning of 2009. And to put it in layperson's terms, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I was 34 years old, and I had to stop working and stop doing everything and just focus on treatment and resting and getting better. Didn't even know if I was going to get better. It was pretty fucking tough. So I had to deal with that, had to deal with stopping work, had to deal with a lot of things that happened at that time. It was a pretty big, I hesitate to use the word journey because I don't like using that analogy so much, but it was. And I was pretty sick. I was having treatment. I was pretty happy. The last picture down there in September is me finishing my radiation treatment. So I had chemotherapy, had radiation, had surgery, and so on. And as you can see, it was pretty bad. So mid 2009, I wasn't working anymore, but I really needed something to do, something to hang on to. So, and like, I needed a purpose, not just like when you stop working, all of a sudden that's been your life, and then that stops and doing something else. So I needed a purpose. I needed a task. I needed something also that was a distraction, something that wasn't focused on treatment, but it was something completely different. And I had thought about all of these things that I could do from home, or hiring a room, or sometimes even doing some short-term teaching at a school. And the school that I worked for was very supportive, and they let me come back when I was ready to, but came back too early, and then I had to stop again. And there's a lot of things that you have to deal with amongst all of that. So I had all these other things that I had to work through as well. One of the biggest ones being fatigue, so not being able to turn up and teach on time and be, excited and happy in front of a class of students. It was tough. And I didn't want to have to ring the director of studies and say, look, I can't come in today because I'm too tired. I just wanted to be able to focus on what I was doing, what I could teach. So I thought, well, how can I manage all of these things? What I can do is set up a website that's asynchronous, so I don't have to be online at the same time as the students. They can do their work, submit it, and then I can mark it as when I had time to do it, really. I gave myself, I think, 2 working days or something like that. It was enough time to be able to manage the student submissions. So here I am working on my website, and there aren't very many pictures of me like this, but I've got a couple up there. The desk looks very uncluttered compared to how it is now. So starting up, and I want to talk about a mentor, I suppose, of mine, and who is Anita Roddick. So before I became an English language teacher, when I was at university, I also worked at the Body Shop, and I met Anita Roddick a couple of times, and I really liked her philosophy and the way that she went about business. She did things with a real passion and did things quite differently for the time that she was working at. And I thought about what I'd learned from working in her company, and I thought I can apply that to my business. And I'll take you through the steps that I went through, and hopefully if you are looking at starting your business, these might be helpful things for you to be able to take away. These are some of the things that she said, and I'll talk about these. I'll break them down a little bit into something a bit more practical. So the first thing is to turn your talents into business, and you can think about the things that you're good at, the things that you love to do, and ways that you have made money in the past. And for me, it was these things. And I know it sounds a bit kind of cheesy, but it is good to create a vision board, to make cutouts for magazines and stick them onto a big piece of cardboard, or create a board using Pinterest and pull up a whole lot of images that you find inspiring and exciting and applicable to your business. I know that for all of those things, I also had limitations that I had to work with. And those being that I still had to sleep a lot and that my timetable was rather uncertain. So these were things that I knew I had to keep in mind. The other things to consider are all of these business skills and abilities, and think about your strengths and weaknesses and how you can manage those in relation to these. And I'll just talk through a few of these and give you some guidance and experience that I've had concerning these, and maybe you can apply these to yourself. Audio test. Okay. So I knew that with product and service knowledge, I had the background that I could use to focus on English language teaching, and more specifically with IELTS. IELTS is something that I became very passionate about. And I knew that I had requests from students who really wanted help with IELTS writing. That was the biggest thing that they needed help with. And I knew that I could help them with that. There weren't that many resources available, so I thought, well, okay, I can make these resources, I can create these courses, I can make them available to students. You can use SurveyMonkey as well if you want to put surveys out there to find out more information about the students or about what you're proposing to do. Business plan, it is important. It can be daunting, but you do want to think about all of these things for your business. What's different about it? When you're choosing a business name, if you are in a particular area, then choose a location-based name, because people will type in English Tutor Brisbane. So I've made my website, one of my websites, englishtutorbrisbane.com. So it would hopefully come up nice and high on the search rankings. You want to think about your business personality. What is the logo? What colors? What fonts and so on? What's stood out to you from your vision board? I found that using 1.9, I had some theme constraints, and those are still reflected in my site today. I haven't updated some things that I know I could. You can get business cards from Vistaprint. They're pretty reasonable. And there's also Moo business cards. And also, you always want to keep looking back at your business plan as well and changing it as necessary. For money, get PayPal, use PayPal plugin, use Excel or something similar to make worksheets about how much money you want to make and how much money you are making. Make some targets for yourself. Like, you're in business to make money, so you do need to focus on that side of things. Think about the cost of goods, and thinking about how much time you've put in and effort into setting something up, so that are you able to get that back through your costs, through your fees. Use something like Xero or get a bookkeeper. For me, it wasn't worthwhile using Xero. I wasn't sending invoices that I needed really, but I do have a bookkeeper, so and they're pretty handy to have. For every payment that I made, I'd take 30% off and put it into another bank account, and that would be for paying tax. And I set up with an ABN, an Australian business number, and then any excess put into a superannuation fund. And then I would also opt to pay tax quarterly if you can. You don't have to be GST registered to do that. You can still pay tax quarterly. It just means that you're not suddenly getting a big tax bill at the end of the tax year. And sometimes you may even reduce your tax bill because you've overpaid throughout the course of the tax year. You don't have to be registered for GST in Australia unless you're earning more than $75,000, and in New Zealand it's more than 60,000. I'm not registered for GST. And do set up a separate bank account. It doesn't have to be a business account. You can just name it your business account, and that works pretty well. You can jump around with your online banking. I'm speaking from an Australian perspective, so set up with an Australian business number. It's pretty easy to do. Set it up as a business. How's that? Can you hear me okay now? Yay. Sorry about that. Where was I up to? Okay. All right. So yeah, ABN. You want to did you hear me talking about business name versus trading name? Okay. So I would recommend not having your business name under your own name. Like your trading name can be your name. So for me, it's Tish Kirkland, and my business name is Yes IELTS. But I deliberately chose not to have my business name as Tish's IELTS business, for example, because perhaps I want to sell that business in the future. Then I have to sell it with that name, Tish's IELTS business, and the new people might not run the company or the business how I want it to be run. So I might not want to be associated with that. So I think it's depending on how you want to run it, how you want to do it. I think it's better to have this business name not the same as your own name. And in order to get a .com.au, you have to have a business name registered. So I had to register Yes IELTS as a business name, and then I could get yesielts.com.au. It's quite strict in Australia. .com anybody can get, as I'm sure you're aware. And I used Crazy Domains for mine. I've got DNS there, and I can't even remember what that does. All I remember is just like clicking and following the prompts and doing it, and it somehow seemed to work its magic. So just click away is all I have to say about that. Quite a few things just sort of muddle through and follow the prompts. These are the things to consider. You may have seen them before about marketing. I call them the 6 Ps. And this is how it would work for me and for my site. I also need to think about cultural things as well. Like I chose the color. Thanks, Gareth. Yes, that rings a bell. um, I chose orange because I'd read somewhere that it was the color of wisdom. So I thought, oh, I'll make orange my site's color. Um, blue, I think, is a really popular one for websites as well, but I wanted to stand out to be different and not have a blue site. And I was able to get online and I found that by putting ads on Gumtree, it moved me up the Google ranking. There's a website here in Brisbane called Sun Brisbane. There's a lot of language teachers advertising on there. And then just doing things like being a blogger on somebody else's site or writing an article. And a lot of my students come through word of mouth. One of them signs up and then another, and then their friends do, which is fantastic. Using social media, so much out there. I only just got on Instagram about 2 days ago because I got my very first smartphone last week. So that's learning a bunch of new stuff. I really like that IFTTT, if this then that, and you can set up recipes to direct things and put them in different places. So whenever I put something up on my blog, it automatically goes to Facebook, and from Facebook it goes to Twitter. And then if I hashtag or make a tag for IELTS, then it will go to my WordPress site, and then from there it will go to my Google Plus page. Yes, it does rock. It is cool. But the one thing is to make sure you don't make a circle of stuff happening. Like I think I had it set up. Something went from Twitter to, I think I had Facebook going to Twitter, and then Twitter to Facebook, and then it would go from Facebook to Twitter, Twitter to Facebook, and it kind of made a bit of a mess. So just make one direction if you can. Yeah. So if you have Twitter to Facebook, then if you set up your IFTTT, Facebook to Twitter, then you can have a bit of a ongoing thing happening. That's what I found anyway. I'm sure there's a way of working around it, but just check everything. It's great. Get onto it. It's really easy to use as well. It doesn't seem to be Instagram on it though. Maybe there is. Still working all of that stuff out. So working all that stuff out, I'm getting online, Googling stuff, finding out, getting onto the Moodle.org and into Moodle Docs. Anything I get stuck on, I just Google Moodle plus theme change or something like that. I did the Learn Moodle MOOC a couple of years ago. I did the Moodle Course Creator Certificate with HRD and Z a couple of years ago. There's iMoots, as I'm sure you are aware, and then there's the Moodle Moots around the world. Other courses and resources, there's so much out there. Get a free trial version of something first. So Gareth is saying, but do you separate different social media for different purposes? So my Facebook is personal mostly, Twitter, business, Instagram, more my photography. That's a really good question. I can tell you how I have it set up. I have personal, Facebook is personal, and my personal account is pretty hard to find me on because students. Then I have two Facebook business pages, like fan pages, one for Yes IELTS and the other one for English Tutor Brisbane. English Tutor Brisbane used to be a person account until Facebook forced me to turn it into a fan page, business page type account. Twitter is for business as well, and I link my business page Facebook to my Twitter account. And then Instagram, you can flick between a business account and a personal account. So I've got two accounts set up there. Still haven't quite got Instagram set up for business yet, but what I was planning on doing is taking screenshots of students' recommendations and then posting them on Instagram, and then I think trying to get them to feed to Twitter as well, and maybe also Facebook. That's the plan anyway. We'll see what happens. If you do want to read use them all but have separation within rather than one for one purpose, yes. Yeah. It is a tricky one, like splitting and having multiple accounts. And honestly, I do the right thing and have different passwords for everything. But the number of times I have to reset my password because I'm logging in on a different device and I've forgotten the password is pretty high. But that's all right. If you want to read some business books, Anita Roddick, of course, she's got Body and Soul and Business as Unusual, and Vicky Birkinshaw, who used to work with us at the Body Shop, has also got her business book as well. Different device for business. Oh, I don't think I could. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, those are good ideas. Password safe and Dropbox. Yeah. Other places to look for information. Just like to do a Google search for small business plus the name of your state, and you'll find some different things come up. Look for the .gov.au or .govt.nz. Do become friends with the tax office; they will find you. So you want to do everything right by them from the very beginning. Start how you want to finish, I think they say. So get it right in the first place, and use the Australian Business Register. And it's good being listed on there. I was then able to verify my Facebook page. So yay, my Facebook page for my business is verified. It's cool. In New Zealand, they have the Citizens Advice Bureau, which is really helpful. and do go to Work and Income to find out more information about starting your own business. And the equivalent to the tax office there is Inland Revenue for your taxes. So website, I was on 2.7. I think I still am. I need to talk to somebody about updating, but it's working. It's going pretty well. It doesn't work so well on a mobile device, as I have just discovered with my new smartphone. You don't want to know the phone I had before. But let's just say it lasted me a good 12 years. Any comments so far about this business thing? Question. So I'm going to talk about running it now, and pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. But actually, yes, we will. We will peek behind the curtain, see what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So we have writing courses. It's original content. I want it to be easy to use. It's just me, although I do have a helper now, which is excellent. The teacher is the expert in this case. The students' first language is not English, so they speak another language as their first language. Really focusing on the higher IELTS levels, so higher level students, and they one-to-one students, and they are independent learners. They've found me and want some help. Thank you. It's continuous and ongoing enrollment, and I found that seems to be different from how a lot of other Moodle sites are run. They seem to be set like for a term or for a semester, and it's very date oriented, whereas mine is not. They just log on, it's email-based self-registration, and they pay, and then they do the course, and that they have access for 5 weeks, I think it is. But if they want to extend, that's fine. They just ask me. I really want it to be hands-off for me. And also the grades are not so important for course progression, so I don't focus terribly much on grade book. It's much more about the content and how that we can work through it. I keep it topic-based. My quiz settings are usually adaptive mode with no penalties, because I don't want hundreds of emails of students having submitted their quiz. I just want to receive it one time after they've done the best that they possibly can. So like I said, not much of a focus on grades, and keeping it asynchronous, so that means that we don't have to be online at the same time. And this is great for me as well, for students in different time zones. I've had students in Russia, Egypt, England, France, Canada, Philippines, like all over the place. So there's no worry about having to meet up and find a time zone that fits everybody. I don't really have any plugins because I can't be bothered keeping up and updating things. And one thing that I do try to do is try and make my themes interesting, and to get students thinking about things, promoting discussion. Of the audio test again. No, I don't. Okay. Sorry, every now and then I'm getting a thing saying to check my audio, so if I do disappear for a few seconds, it's because of that. Okay, so I'm 2.7, yeah. want to talk about activity choice. I'm going to go through this quite quickly, so if you want to see the slides again, please review and have a look at it the second time around. Assignment, definitely use that, and I use PDF feedback files, and I use rubrics, and it's great because I get email notifications when the students have submitted, and I don't have to be online at the same time as the student. It's great. It would be wonderful if I could have a timed option rather than dated, like you have to do it within half an hour. That would be really nice, rather than you have to submit it before such and such a date, because my enrollments are just ongoing. Chat, I found that when I was using it, Skype was easier. But if I was meeting with students online, I would do Skype. I would Skype with them. Choice, I would use, and I have used as a pre-learning task, just as a quick thing for students to get them thinking about what they're doing and why they're doing it. Feedback, I tried to use to kind of as a marketing sort of thing to get some feedback from students and some comments, but to be honest, they didn't do it. And I thought about offering an incentive, but then, so I didn't bother. Forum I didn't use because they're not a group of students working together. They're all just individual students, and they weren't using it, so I didn't use it. And it was too much for me to manage at the time, and I've just gone forward with that. I do have a glossary. It has taken a while to set up. It's pretty handy. Lesson, too hard. This is like 1.9, so I think I was just like freaked out, and then moving forward just wasn't going in that direction, and I used quiz. Survey I don't use because the questions were too hard for my students. Quiz, yay, I love quiz. In fact, I renamed it in my language pack to tutorial because I felt the word quiz was more like something short and not really serious or in-depth. So I changed it to tutorial, so now it's always called tutorial on my site. And I use close questions that I also really like, and I use essay type questions. And I restrict access as necessary, and I allow the students to check as they go because, like I said, I don't want to have emails in my inbox every time they submit something. These other things I didn't use, don't use, have tried. Some of them, not for me, not for my site. All good. A book, when it was new, I was like, woohoo, let's give this a go. So I do have a book on there. It seems to be pretty good. Good information. File I use, but only for things that I don't mind being shared a lot, because basically I know my students will get on and I could download something and share it and even on sell it, they will. So let's just not let that happen and make things harder for them to, so that they can't just copy and distribute. A label I like, I use it on my front page, in fact, and I was using it before, I think, is it tiles that you can use now? Okay, how's that now? Is it all right? Okay, yay, thank you, thank you. Thanks for telling me that there's no sound as well. So label I really liked, and page also pretty helpful as well. And I use that as a like as a pop-up page in Quiz. I'm just going to go through this one. The blocks I like. Somebody told me once that you should put a block with your picture and a welcome message, and I thought, oh, I don't know if I want my picture up there, but I think it is really good. And when I see other people's pictures on their pages, it makes me feel really welcome and like there is a human behind it. So I have got a welcome block with a picture of myself on every course page. I make sure my messages are linked to my email because I don't always go onto my website. All right, I'll talk a little bit about making it pretty. And here I've got pictures as a clickable link, and this was before, I think, is it tiles that you can have now? I know there's a proper way of doing it. And I was playing with fonts, and again, we're talking about 1.9, I think it was, and I wanted to have different fonts. So I created a text box in Word and did say this picture, and then I uploaded it as a picture onto this table here. And then you can click on the picture and go to the page that I want you to go to. So here's my HTML block and with my picture. I have got, you can check your progress and see how you're going. I've got a choice as a pre-learning task, and I renamed my quiz as tutorial. I also have hidden activities and a hidden label here. So when students have completed these activities, they get a little thing that pops up, a label, and says, congratulations, you've finished all 3 tutorials. So that kind of keeps it. Here I've got a pop-up page in a quiz. I use the breadcrumbs for navigation. This is again before. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the one. Bootstrap grid system. Yeah, tiles. Yes, yes, yes. And then I can use it on my mobile phone too. That would be really good. Yeah, I will. I used to change my quiz question background color by using a table in the background and then coloring the back of the table. But I know you can do this now in appearance and theme, and you can make some changes. And you can see here, this is before I knew that you could get rid of the blue line around the outside. And that W3 schools is really good just for checking things out and giving it a go. I also put a list of courses on every page, so as a marketing kind of thing. So hopefully people will uh, click on another course if they want to enroll. Here's an essay type question in a quiz, and I'm using a template here. So I want students to fill in these gaps. And first I was worried that they would kind of destroy the template, but they don't. So it worked out quite well. When it comes to communicating with the students, I use the rubrics for grading assignments, and if the students have questions, I just refer them to the criteria. And then I also, when I've graded their quiz, when I've checked it, I send them a message and I copy and paste the URL from the review quiz page into the message. And on this page, on this website, I'll put a little YouTube video showing how I do that. So to summarize, and I know I'm already 2 minutes over time. I use the pictures within the labels for hotspots and links, but I do think that Gareth has mentioned here about the bootstrap and using the tiles, and I think that is what I want to do in the future, and I would recommend anybody else doing that. Rename things within your language pack to suit your site's needs. Get to know your closed question types. Use the rubrics. Have your welcome block in your photo. Show course completion. I think it's a great thing for students to have that visual record of their progress. And restrict activities and restrict labels. And then when they've completed things, they get to have nice signs and labels saying, good job, well done. So just to finish up, I want to say that's my story about where I came from and how I started and how I got on to Moodle and where I'm at now. I know there's some pretty not so good stuff, but there's also some good stuff as well happening. And one is that I've got a school using my site in their school, so which is great for their IELTS classes. And I've got an assistant now who was born this year, which is pretty exciting. And there she is in the wrestling on the couch. And of course, I have to have a gratuitous baby photo of my little helper. Thank you. So any questions, comments? I'm sorry I went a little bit over time. If you have anything you want to add, hop into the forums. Any questions that you have, any comments you want to make. I appreciate your comments that you've made throughout the presentation. We're all learning off each other, and I love learning off you guys. So thank you very much.
Hi Tish, Vinny again. Just to say thank you very much for presenting. And yeah, I'm sure everybody got a lot out of it, as I did. And yeah, you're right. Nobody stops learning. We're all learning from each other. So thank you very much for inspiring and just getting us to think about a few things.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm just reading a couple of things here. Time-based rather than date-based. Yeah. Yes, that would be good. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I hope it's been helpful to you, and I'd love to see and hear more about your businesses and getting on. Yeah. Take care.